Hey, welcome back, guys. Snowfall's latest episodes saw the burial of one beloved character and the liberation of another. Jerome gets his proper send-off in the aftermath of his tragic death, leaving his remaining family to pick up the pieces and decide whether to fight together in his name or fight each other while desecrating it. I'm here to break it all down in typical Top 10 WTF fashion. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, big thank you to all of my channel donors. If you'd like to be the next one, drop a dollar on that Cash App for us. And lastly, a spoiler alert is now in effect for all things Snowfall. Here we go. WTF moment number 10. No rest, no peace. During her first night alone without her dearly departed husband, Louise tosses and turns in her sleep. Unable to keep secure, restful peace, she takes to the road, grieving profusely during an impromptu venture. Then, she surprisingly stops outside of Scully's compound and demands to see the former Blood leader under threat of death by his guards. Once deciphering her true identity, Louise casts her burdens upon Scully, who knows all too well about the grief she's experiencing, and then some. WTF moment number 9. Guess who's coming to breakfast? Ruben makes an early morning impromptu visit to Oso's place with the gun at the kitchen table. He maintains his initial offer to the beleaguered drug dealer turned informant, even adding compensation and asylum for Oso and his family once Teddy is apprehended and subsequently exposed. Then, he threatens violence if things go another way, ensuring Oso understands that none of what he's offering is negotiable. WTF moment number 8. A cat hunting a bird. Gustavo meets with Franklin, stressing the urgency of his predicament and need for money and documents to flee. Upon learning that they'll take longer than expected, Oso confesses to being under the thumb of the DEA, KGB, and Teddy himself. A shocked Franklin initially reacts to the revelations erratically, but uses the info to his advantage in order to get Teddy before they do, via a faulty setup orchestrated by someone he trusts. WTF moment number 7. Business disagreement. Teddy forces a meeting with the grieving Louise, unbeknownst to him, and attempts to get her to betray Franklin for revenge and the slaying of his father. Teddy reminds Louise of who's in charge amidst her rebuttals, and she informs him of Jerome's death, the pending burial plans, and her willingness to assist in the treacherous plot against her nephew thereafter. WTF moment number 6. The devil at a funeral. Jerome is finally put to rest at the conclusion of the episode, with many of our beloved characters, both past and present, showing up to pay their respects to Louis' fallen husband. Towards the end of the heart-wrenching event, Franklin approaches his once-beloved auntie, willing to do whatever she needs. She inquires as to why he saved her from a fate worse than death, to which he reveals the promise she made to him in exchange for her life, the successful capture of Teddy. Upon deeming her nephew the devil, he simply replies with 3 chilling words. Yeah, I know, pure gangster shit. WTF moment number 5. Aunt Louie's punch-out. At the repast, Louise begrudgingly agrees to help Franklin get Teddy in order to get the CIA man off her back. They concoct a scheme where Lou will drop a beating Franklin to Teddy. However, in order to do this, Franklin will have to look the part. The beating is then carried out by Louise herself, who throws several haymakers at her nephew, using him as a relief for all the pent-up emotions she'd been harboring since Jerome's death. Only when Scully intervenes does the grisly episode come to a close. WTF moment number 4. Not these niggas again. Tony Marino becomes suspicious of Gustavo following a drug deal where he openly admits to DEA involvement, jokingly of course. The two later stop so that Oso can contact Teddy following a page. Unfortunately, after being contacted by Teddy, Tony arrests Oso due to his family's sudden disappearance and his informant's shaky behavior. He promises to bury Oso under the jail, which places Franklin and the plan in serious jeopardy, as Gustavo's involvement is critical to its outcome. WTF moment number 3. In the name of the mission. Seemingly doomed to imminent incarceration, Gustavo is hauled in by Tony and the DEA. Surprisingly, the trip is cut short by a car ramming into theirs and sidelining them via accident. Amanda jumps out the truck to check on the situation, only to be viciously killed by a driven Ruben, who transports Oso to the warehouse to complete the mission. WTF moment number 2. Teddy's House of Horrors. Teddy captures Franklin after Louise plays her part and takes him back to the warehouse under torturous circumstances. He hangs his once prized asset from a wire noose, and based on the lie solution, gasoline, tools, and sedatives, plans on paralyzing Saint, cutting up his body, and burning it in homemade acid. It's a gruesome sight to say the least, and has roots in American chattel slavery-like torture and punishment. His fate was on the verge of being carried out similar to Nat Turner's, who was mutilated for his crimes committed while trying to get free. And WTF moment number 1, the real MVP. Just before Franklin's torture could commence, Oso was hauled in by Ruben and commands that Teddy disarm himself. Then, he forces Gustavo to handcuff Teddy at gunpoint. Understanding that Ruben was his last barrier between a reunion with his family and growing weary of governmental opposers, Oso attacks Ruben, and the two fight vigorously, almost killing Saint by lynching in the process. Oso gets the better of Ruben and cuts Franklin from the certain death trap to the cries of a defeated Teddy, whose fate is the best definition of doom come Wednesday night. Some lingering thoughts before we end today's video. Franklin's nightmare episode in 607 was a stark contrast from his aunt. While she's depicted being overrun by emotions, Franklin was consumed by the guilt of losing his uncle due to fallouts and money. The finality of his departure inspired a pain in Saint that he couldn't express like a normal grieving person. Only the nightmares tell his story now. While we're on Franklin's nightmare episode, Andre once asked him how he could sleep knowing the discord he brought upon his own community through revolutionizing crack, to which he replied, like a baby. His current night terrors are a subtle callback to that moment, because Franklin is sleeping like anything but a baby since his many sins have piled up, the longer he operates in the criminal underworld. Leon's reconciliation scene with Scully over his former crimes against him was a deep one. It cemented his reason for returning home from Ghana in the first place, which was to make up for the past. Though the damage done can never be repaired in the form of resurrected life, the spiritual growth that accompanies forgiveness inspires new life in the aggrieved and the aggriever going forward. Both men have a renewed chance at life in the days to come, along with a renewed perspective that will only create as opposed to destroy. It's a bittersweet phenomenon that such creation is preceded by destruction, but in death, as in life, a sacrifice is mandatory before salvation can be fully achieved. Episode 8 is titled The Battle of the Bear, and it's a nod to Gustavo. His wrestling nickname, El Oso, translates to literally the bear, and this episode largely depended upon his performance under pressure. The pressure mounting against him was feverish, and between the DEA, the KGB, and Teddy, you can see the stress affecting his actions and moods from scene to scene. But in the end, Gustavo was the MVP of episode 8, and without him, Saint's journey will be the best definition of over. And that'll do it for this one. What were your thoughts on episodes 7 and 8? Be sure to drop me your opinions in the comments below. As always, I thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, go ahead and drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are fans of Snowfall, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.